use as a crime has not worked. I have reviewed the language of Measure 91, and it's very well written. I think it's a good bill.
Measure 91 regulates marijuana for adults, so police have time to fight serious, violent, and unsolved crime.
And here in Washington, wasteful arrests down, DUIs down, drug prevention programs are getting funds. Strict regulations are working. Here, it's really better, already. Vote yes on 91.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 4:02 in the Pacific Time Zone. Time for Toker Talk Radio. And I misspoke when I was talking to Diane Goldstein from Leap. I had the right story. I had the wrong source. It wasn't New York Times. It was Como News, Komo. It's one of the stations in Seattle. And it was also, well, it's bylined from the Associated Press, so maybe it also appeared in the Times, I'm not sure, but it is an Associated Press piece. Oregon, Alaska, now ground zero in legal marijuana fight. And this is basically talking about, you know, the election that's going on here. But here, when we get to the Oregon part, they talk about how the groups backing Measure 91 have raised $4 million and the opponents have raised $168,000. And there's, let me see if I can find the quote here. With only $168,000 to spend, the No on 91 campaign in Oregon used most of it to mail 155,000 postcards to mothers from Portland to Eugene. It focused on fears that marijuana-infused candy and sodas pose a danger to kids. They have also flown in people from Colorado to speak out, said Clatsop County Sheriff Tom Bergen, a leader of the No campaign. Quote, "It's really difficult," he said. "We've got daytime jobs. The potheads don't. This is their job to get this legalized." End quote. Okay. Seattle pollster Stuart Elway said that as Election Day approaches, the support is declining, but, quote, "In Washington's experience, the measure outperformed the polls. What we have in Oregon right now is a statistical dead heat. It's going to depend in large part on who votes," end quote. So it's more than important. It's absolutely crucial that if you know someone under the age of 50 living in the state of Oregon, you need to call them and make sure that they have voted. Now, I encourage you to call anyone who lives in Oregon to make sure they voted, but specifically people under 50, because they're the ones who are more likely to be supportive of Measure 91. There's just kind of a knee-jerk, reflexive no vote from older people, especially people 65 and older, for anything that says marijuana, because they can't separate the policy from the plant. To them, a yes vote is saying, I think it's cool if my grandkids smoke pot. And they just can't get their heads around that for the most part. But yeah, this story, this was the one story. There's another story, a New York Times story that I'm trying to find, which is the one where we are mentioned as the basically our fight against Kevin Sabet. So here we go. This is the story. New York Times, for marijuana, a second wave of votes to legalize. And it points out how it's got Josh Markey in here. In Oregon, there's been no sugar daddy, as Josh Markey, the county prosecutor, put it. Opponents have raised only about $179,000. And here's the part about our campaign. Changes required for the meeting about marijuana and youth here in Kaiser, opponents of legalization say, offers a case study in the tough new tactics of pro-legalization groups. A few weeks before the Marijuana and Our Youth meeting, legalization supporters pointed out to federal and state authorities that a small drug treatment center, funded by government grants, was sponsoring a tour of the state by Kevin Sabet, a co-founder of the national anti-legalization group Smart Approaches to Marijuana. They reminded all parties that federal and state laws prohibited the use of public funds to influence elections. The state of Oregon agreed and issued a stern warning that any group receiving public money, a list that included 70 counties, tribes, schools, and nonprofit agencies that provide drug treatment or substance abuse prevention programs, had best tread carefully. The result was a sudden silence in the anti-drug contingent and a muted meeting here in Kaiser. Even though private funds were substituted to avoid the appearance of impropriety, talk of Measure 91, organizers said, was taken off the table out of concern for jobs and future government grants. A central constituency in the opposition, heavy on healthcare professionals, was stifled. Now, thank you, New York Times, for noticing. But characterizing this as a tough new tactic is a little hyperbole here. What this is expecting the other side to obey the freaking law. That's not a tactic. That's just leveling the playing field. For every election leading up to this one, law enforcement and drug prevention people have been muddying the waters and blurring the lines between 501c3 educational advocacy and outright electioneering against marijuana legalization. All we've done this time is pointed it out. All we've done this time is caught them with their hand in the cookie jar. It's not a tough new tactic. It's a new political maturity. It's a new wave of marijuana legalizers who aren't the tie-dye Birkenstock set and who understand how politics and election laws work and expect those laws to be held for both sides equally. That's all we've done.
Five of the last 9 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 9 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 two-term presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show. .420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest.
In 2012, Washington State voted to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana. I was for it. Well, the evidence keeps coming in. Our new approach is working. Month by month, tax dollars are going to schools and police, not the drug cartels. Wasteful arrests are way down, DUIs are down, drug prevention programs are getting funds. Strict regulations are working. Here, it's really better already. It's your vote, not mine, but it's working here.
The Hot Box Podcast with Matt Lee and Ian Baker from Kalispell, Montana, replaying Thursdays at 11 Pacific on...
I'm Paul Steigletter. I spent 30 years in law enforcement, beat cop to deputy sheriff, working 10 hours a day to protect and serve. Last year in Oregon, there were 13,000 citations and arrests for marijuana. Yes on 91 will allow law enforcement to focus on serious crimes, unsolved murders, rapes, missing kids. Measure 91 also mandates that Oregon develop standardized tests for driving under the influence, which we don't have now. That'll make our streets and highways safer. Yes on 91.
Yeah, it's abrasive, yeah, and double E, GJ, yeah, yo. Pass me the chronic for this one, yeah, got a blaze with a nice fat spliff for this. Yeah. Yo, 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 turn the lights down.
That's music from Sabotage and Masia One with the Cannabis Club. That's some of our Groovin' Thursday library. You can check out more great groovy, funky tunes coming up next on Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink starting at 5 p.m. A solid show, complete with deep funk tracks. I mean, I thought I knew the funk until I met Big Daddy. He's got all the funk, baby. The next episode coming up, 5 o'clock p.m. Check it out. Blaxploitation Theater, Season 2, Episode 14, 5 o'clock p.m. All right, so I wanted to continue talking about Oregon's CBS affiliate in Southern Oregon, Medford's KTVL, which last night, they've been doing a 5-part series. Started on Monday. I was in the Tuesday part. And I saw the Tuesday part and thought they did a really nice, even-handed job. It presented me making my points, and it presented the anchor or the reporter, Jessica DeNova, asking me questions. Things like, if you don't want to be a criminal, why not just not smoke pot? And, basically providing kind of a fair look at it. It featured me and it featured some opponents, and so it was a nice little news piece. But apparently the piece on Wednesday that I watched, oh my God, they put all appearances of impartiality. Those just went right out the window. This was nothing more than a 5-minute hit piece on Measure 91. All this was basically giving the Oregon sheriffs and the district attorneys 5 minutes of free airtime on the news to make the case against legalizing marijuana, with absolutely no tough questioning from the reporter like I got, with absolutely no rebuttal from anyone in support of 91, or even a neutral observer who could have called shenanigans on some of the things they were proposing as fact. It's kind of funny how our side gets held to this incredibly high standard. Whenever I go to these debates, whenever I go to these events, whenever I talk to news media and so forth, I'm always bringing them links. I'm always bringing them hyperlinks to studies, to government databases, to analyses, to mainstream media news stories, New York Times, Washington Post, and so forth. Because I know who I am. I'm a professional pothead. They're not going to take me seriously. They're going to think, oh, you just want to get high. You're going to lie. You're going to say anything you want to say just so you can get it legal. So I have to come correct. I have to bring all the facts and statistics to bear. I can't say a single thing about marijuana if I don't back it up with a fact that somebody's not going to call me out on it. But that standard doesn't seem to apply to law enforcement, doesn't seem to apply to the district attorneys. They're allowed to just get on the television and say any old reefer madness bullshit they want. And the mainstream media is like, oh, okay, must be the case. Pretty sad. And that's not just an indictment over this particular story. This is an indictment of the media since Walter Cronkite left the desk. But that's a much bigger topic to tackle. And maybe once marijuana is legalized all across this country, I'll get into that one. But my friend Doug McVeigh, who hosts the Drug Policy Fact Show here on 420 Radio, sent an email in response. I had sent this email out to all of my friends in the reform movement. And Doug reminded me of some facts that I should have added to my little rant. So full credit to Doug here for pointing this out. He points out that KTVL, because I made the little snide remark that this is a CBS affiliate. It's not a Fox News station, right? Well, it is a CBS station, but it's owned by a group called the Sinclair Broadcast Group. Sinclair Broadcast Group. Now, does that sound familiar to any political observers out there? Let me refresh your memory. The CEO of Sinclair is a guy named David D. Smith, and he's been accused in the past of using the stations that he controls to promote his own right-wing political agenda. From a story from sourcewatch.org, quote, Sinclair Broadcast Group has been compared to the radio conglomerate Clear Channel Communications, and programming produced by the group is considered to have a right-wing slant. For example, in April of 2004, Sinclair Broadcast Group refused to broadcast a special Nightline broadcast produced by ABC that was devoted to reading the names of soldiers who had died in Operation Iraqi Freedom. In contrast, Sinclair Broadcast Group directed its stations to air an anti-John Kerry program ahead of the 2004 presidential election. Protests against the directive and the film resulted in a more balanced news program being aired. Concerns about Sinclair Broadcast Group's conservative bias has led to anti-Sinclair campaigns, including a boycott against advertisers and the ongoing SinclairAction.com campaign. Sinclair also in addition to owning KTVL in Medford, owns K2 in Portland, KMTR in Eugene, KVAL in Eugene, and KPIC in Roseburg. Now, if you're sitting back there thinking, well, isn't there a fairness doctrine? Aren't they required to be fair? How can they do that? Well, the fairness doctrine was repealed in 1987. There used to be this thing. When I grew up as a kid, there was this thing in the news called the fairness doctrine that said, well, if you're going to let one side talk, you got to let the other side talk. Well, Reagan said that. We don't need that. And then there was another doctrine that was called the Zapple doctrine. No, not Snapple. Zapple doctrine. And that was a doctrine that said that there had to be equal time for candidates. That rule was repealed last year by the FCC. So really, there's nothing here to hold these people to account at KTVL. Under the law right now, and under the standard practices of the mainstream media, they don't even have to try to be fair on the news. Not at all. So if they want to give 5 minutes of free airtime to the cops to tell lies about Measure 91, that's their prerogative. That, hey man, free speech, free market, right? Except for one problem. Sinclair Broadcast Group couldn't make a damn penny if we, the people, did not give them the license to operate on our public spectrum. This is something, and I think, having worked in media for a while, maybe I'm more aware of it than other folks. Maybe people don't think it's a big deal. But the electromagnetic spectrum, the airwaves, we call them, that belongs to all of us. That's you and me. We own that. That's ours. And the only way broadcasters are allowed to pump their signals over this spectrum is through the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, which regulates the broadcast airwaves. And the original deal here, in the infancy of broadcast media, the deal between the public and the corporations, the deal was, we'll give you these public airwaves upon which you can make mad bank. Mad bank. Huge billion-dollar profits. But we'd like you to devote an hour of the whole 24 hours, 1 hour to the public good. You can have the other 23 hours to sell Ginsu knives and cars and beer and pharmaceuticals and whatever else you can make advertising bank on. That's cool. And you can have the public's airwaves to do that. We'll let you do that. If you'll just give us 1 hour dedicated to the public good. Dedicated to the news and the facts. Give us a 1 hour segment of the broadcast spectrum that's not profit motivated. That's part of the public good and furthers the public discussion. That this 1 hour would be the new public square that our founding fathers thought of in the real sense, in the physical sense of a public square. In the digital world, in the broadcast world, this would be our public square, this 1 hour at a time, where the news would be the news and not dependent on profit. Well, folks, that went away. It went away in the 80s, thanks to Reagan. But let's not blame this all on Republicans. It went away in the 90s even more thanks to Bill Clinton, the 1996 Telecommunications Act, that allowed these conglomerates like Sinclair, like a Clear Channel, to own multiple outlets in the same cities even. That used to not be the case either. Used to be we had this idea that, maybe there shouldn't be a monopoly on free speech. If it's going to be broadcast speech, maybe there ought not be a monopoly. That's out the window too. And that's why I'm here. And that's why you're here listening to me, because we know the internet is the last bastion of truth, freedom, and free speech that exists in this country.
What are you people? On dope?
Can always tell somebody's over the age of 50 if they still call it dope. Over 40 if they call it grass, right? That's all the time. That is not all the time we got. I don't know what's up with me today. I'm on a short circuit or something. Well, to be honest, I have 3 stressful things going on in my life, and only one of them's good. We'll talk more about that when we get back, but first we'll got Chuck Diesel calling in. Got new music from Roz Simone. Stay tuned.
420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest.
Measure 91 means regulating and legalizing marijuana for adults, freeing up time and generating revenue so police can better protect us from serious, violent, and unsolved crimes. The system needs changing. Yes, on 91, it's about time.
Congressman Doc Hastings stood up for Washington's medical marijuana program and patients like Larry Harvey. Larry and his family are being prosecuted by the federal government, even though they were following Washington's 16-year-old medical marijuana law. On May 30th, Congressman Hastings voted for an amendment that would protect Washington's medical marijuana program and its patients from federal interference. Will the next representative from District 4 respect Washington voters? No, before you vote.
It was a nightmare scenario last May for one Southern Oregon woman. It's 4 a.m, and someone's trying to break in.
911 emergency. My ex-boyfriend is trying to break into my house. He put me in the hospital a few weeks ago, and I've been trying to keep him away.
But because of budget cuts, the sheriff's office is only open during weekday business hours.
I don't have anybody to send out there. So if he comes inside the residence and assaults you, can you ask him to go away? Or
he did break into the home, and he did rape and choke this woman. Meanwhile, it was announced that the Oregon Sheriff's Association made a $100,000 donation to the campaign against Measure 91, the initiative to legalize marijuana. So there's enough money to protect people from marijuana, but not rapists? Measure 91 devotes 35% of tax revenues from marijuana sales to state and local police. Vote yes on Measure 91. A message from the Russ Belville Show, not endorsed or sponsored by the Measure 91 campaign.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Groovin' Thursday, featuring rap, hip-hop, soul, and funk music. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 23 after the hour, time for some Groovin' Thursday to chill out here during our 420 break. We got our good friend Chuck Diesel on the line. How you doing, Chuck?
Doing well. How are you doing, Russ?
Man, we're 5 minutes away from legalizing. I couldn't be better.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you feeling about the vote, man? You're younger than I am. How are the young people? Are they going to vote this time?
Yeah, that press release thing we were talking about was about me trying to, as I'm a Washingtonian across the border, but just supporting that Did They Vote app.
Right.
Because I think stuff like that's going to be critical. I really hope our detractors are not correct in the midterm election problem. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be close, but I think we're going to do it just based on, I think Anthony Johnson's done an incredible job. I think the people they've got on TV remind me so much of 502. They're so convincing. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, well, former head of, insert name police department said it's okay. I think that would convince my mom,
I sure hope so. And one thing we can always point out, too, is that, yes, more young people vote during a presidential election. But even compared to that, in 2012, Washington and Colorado had huge youth turnout compared to the other states. I think legalization is going to bring out the youth vote.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think a lot of young people have this attitude like, well, it doesn't matter if I vote for president or I vote for representative or Congress because none of those bastards are going to do what I want anyway. But in this case, you could actually get something you want.
Exactly. Honestly, they say all politics is local, but I think as a young cannabis consumer, I think this has more impact on our lives than a presidential election, honestly.
Absolutely. Your chances of being arrested for marijuana if you're under the age of 30 are much greater than your chances that the president will do what you want.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
All right, let's get
or
to some
even
music.
What he said he was going to do.
Yeah,
but anyway.
yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to some music for today. You got some music here from Roz Simone, I see.
Yeah, so he is a Seattle-based artist. He's one of my favorite things, really, is besides his talent and his music, is just that he's an independent artist. So he has this Black Umbrella label that he does all of his own stuff under. He's a graphic artist, and he approached hip-hop from poetry. Was not a big music buff or a hip-hop head or a sneakerhead or anything that might lead you to like hip-hop. He just liked poetry, and that led him into hip-hop. Combined with, his background, it's amazing music. It's awesome. It's local. So yeah, I'm stoked to support him.
Oh, local Portland artist?
Local Seattle, but still very, very close.
Right on. All right, well, let's get
and
to
his album name reminded me of the What About the Children argument. It's called Cognitive Dissonance.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, from the album Cognitive Dissonance, this is Roz Simone with Don't Shine. And thanks, Chuck. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios, Russ.
Where I'm from, when the clouds come out, then the sun don't shine round here. Need your love, your touch, a shelter from the rain. Where I'm from, when the clouds come out, then the sun don't shine round here. Need your love, your touch, shelter from the rain. I just fucked a bitch that I don't know, and the condom broke. The fucking rules that get broken when a young man is on the road. I swear my life is one they love to live, but they don't want the smoke. Firearms and they entire arm from shooting niggas for they fire on me. Timing is key. G, so I unlock that door, squeeze. G's Louise, I'm on freeze. Chains upon chains, bitches upon bitches, rings upon rings. Where I'm from, people take care of their wants before they needs. Where I'm going, people don't have any needs. It's just greed. I try for the fine line between Alexander McQueen's on my feet. Libyan landmines blow the knees off kids' feet. But we don't give a fuck. Out here penny pinching with these millions in our touch. Nothing is enough, we're all gluttonous as fuck. We're all gluttonous as fuck. Because where I'm from, when the clouds come out, then the sun don't shine round here. Need your love, your touch, a shelter from the rain. Where I'm from, when the clouds come out, then the sun don't shine round here. Need your love, your touch, shelter from the rain. I owned a club when I was 19, all from selling dope to the right fiends. Damn, that's one hell of a pipe dream. My mama tell me do the right thing, young Spike Lee. So I keep cutting and shooting, steady camming and zooming. Give it to the customers, let the critics and the hecklers review it. They poofing on my new shit, keep it pure and give it that cool with the same shit that I do to my music. Now I don't sell dope, but I still do pimp. A couple bad bitches on my rear view mirror. Driving hella fast like I still don't care, but I'm red and blue lights on my rear view mirror. Couple penny jars, but I still do appear in court, so they can't tell me shit about a warrant. Turning in court fees, I'm feeling extorted. They feeling me too, cause I'm feeling important. And my foot room on the plane is bigger than yours, is because we don't give a fuck. Just some kids shooting niggas with these triggers in our touch. Something is enough, we're all hungrier than fuck. We're all hungrier than fuck. Because where I'm from, when the clouds come out, then the sun don't shine round here. Need your love, your touch, a shelter from the rain. Where I'm from, when the clouds come out, then the sun don't shine round here. Need your love, your touch, shelter from the rain. Where I'm from, when the sun comes out, then the clouds come rolling in. Need your love, your touch, a shelter from the rain. Where I'm from, when the sun comes out, then the clouds come rolling in. Need your love, your touch, a shelter from the rain. A shelter from the rain.
.420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups.
I'm Lori Constantino, former chief prosecutor for the state of Alaska. As a retired law enforcement official, I know our current marijuana prohibition laws just aren't working. In fact, they've caused far more problems than they've solved. It's time for Alaska to take a more sensible approach. That's why I'm voting yes on ballot measure 2.
I'm Bill Parker, former Deputy Commissioner of Corrections in Alaska, and I'm voting yes on 2. For me, it's a matter of public safety. We have limited law enforcement resources, and they should be spent addressing serious crimes, not arresting thousands of Alaskans for marijuana.
And I'm Kim Cole, a local high school teacher and a mom, and I want to see marijuana handled in a way that actually benefits Alaskans. The marijuana industry should be managed by responsible businesses and not criminals. This means safer communities, revenue for the state, and jobs for Alaskans. I'm voting yes on 2. This communication was paid for by the Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol. Top contributors are Marijuana Policy Project, Drug Policy Alliance, and Thomas Cook.
The Jody Emery Show, replaying Fridays at 1 Pacific on.
Our daughter Rebecca could have a seizure at any given time that could take her life.
When you have 200 seizures a day, she gets so scared.
I've learned a lot about the benefits of medical marijuana in the treatment of intractable epilepsy in children. We feel her saying to us, Mom, Dad,
help me.
When is this going to stop? Why don't you, my parents who love me, do something? And we can't.
Please help us help our daughter.
Our daughter Rebecca needs all options for medical marijuana, so please vote yes on Amendment 2.
Welcome back, everyone. 33 after the hour, and as I told you, Big Daddy Funk's got the deep funk. That's Parliament with Moonshine Heather. All right, so for our second segment here, I wanted to get a little personal. If you don't want to hear personal stuff, then this might be the segment to tune out, because I got to get some stuff off my chest. It's the only way I know how to do it. Helps my health and my mental well-being. So I'm going to do it. It's been a stressful week. I don't know if you noticed throughout the show, it's like my mind is not entirely here. And I hate that. I hate not being able to give full attention to the show. So I thought I would just share with you what's going on that's got my mind working. And the first one, okay, there's like 3 major stresses going on in my life right now. The first of which is the election. And that's stressful enough as it is, right? Just figuring, have I done enough? What more could I do? How could I help this election more? How are we going to get the Tuesday night coverage taken care of? Do I have all the numbers I need? Is everything ready to go? I mean, that's pretty stressful, but that's just work. That's regular old stuff. The other stress in my life is Utah. As you know, over the 420 weekend, I was busted in Utah. Along with Larry, Left Wing Larry, and my former nameless assistant. And we were busted and arrested for possession, myself and the assistant arrested for possession of marijuana, possession of paraphernalia. And it cost me, well, I shouldn't say it cost me. I called in some favors. But I had to round up $1,200 about. It was $1,166, I think it was. I had to round up $1,200 to get myself bailed out. $1,200 for a single charge of possession of paraphernalia, possession of marijuana. So 2 charges, 1 each. $1,200 to get out. Couldn't get a bail bondsman because traveling across the state from Oregon, no bail bondsman wants to take that risk. So called in favor, got $1,200, got myself out of jail. My former assistant, on the other hand, was charged with 5 counts of paraphernalia and possession of marijuana. And the cost to get him out of jail was $3,707, roughly $4,000. So it cost roughly $5,000 to get out of jail that weekend to be able to go to the Cannabis Cup after we discovered that my former nameless assistant was hauling with him the entire goddamn cannabis kitchen, apparently. Now, as it turns out, I hired a lawyer, and the lawyer's been taking care of this for me. That's another $750, that cost. So I hired this lawyer, and the lawyer's been taking care of the case for me. Now, what we got in the case, we actually got the charges and got the evidence and all that stuff from the case. Turns out that my former nameless assistant is not charged with 5 counts. It's now more like 14, I think. 14, 16, something like that. Now, Larry, my roommate, and I were smart enough to know that, hey, we're going from Oregon to Colorado. There will be plenty of weed in Colorado. And given our station, plenty of access to it. So Larry and I did not take with us any marijuana or paraphernalia. So how did I get charged? Well, according to the police report, in addition to all of the 14 or 15 or 16 items they found in the trunk in my former assistant's bags, they supposedly found a vapor pen with marijuana in it in one of my bags. My bag, the only bag of mine that was in the back seat, was the laptop case, and it was in the control of my former assistant, since he is the technical assistant. And in one of the cop's own reports, when he found said vapor pen, said former assistant, "That's mine." So we even have in the police report that it wasn't mine, that it belonged to my assistant. So how am I still getting charged with possession and paraphernalia? Well, the laptop case has a tag on it with a card in it that says the Russ Belville Show. So, since it says Russ Belville on the case and the case has marijuana in it, that's Russ Belville's marijuana, and they feel they can charge me for that. So, all of this comes to today. Today, October 30th, is my first hearing date in Utah at the judicial court. And my lawyer's making the appearance for me and everything. And he managed to have a talk with the prosecutor. And apparently, nobody's really interested in bringing me to trial or having to spend Utah taxpayer money to incarcerate me or anything. However, the charges I'm accused of can be fines up to $1,000 for each charge, so up to $2,000 in fines, and consecutive, not concurrent, 6-month sentences. So a year in jail, if I were found guilty. That's what's possible. But the prosecutor's not really interested in going that route because, you know, that's going to cost the state money to put me up. The prosecutor said, or apparently what the deal is here, is a long and convoluted legal thing where basically if I cough up another $1,200 to Utah, they'll let this thing slide. It involves a lot of stuff. It's like a delayed hearing and a filed plea of guilty that's withheld until the time expires. And if I don't get in trouble again, then they dismiss it and then we can get it expunged and blah, 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 blah. It's a bunch of legal crap. But basically what it boils down to is if I come up with another $1,200, this thing will go away. So I'm looking at this one incident over marijuana I did not possess costing me $6,200. So the next time I hear some prohibitionist like Kevin Sabet or some sheriff or some DA say that marijuana is no big deal, we really don't go after marijuana, it's such a low priority, we don't really spend any time or effort going after people for marijuana, I'm going to kick them right in the taint. And then I'm going to take $6,200 from them. This has been a stress that has been hanging over my head since April. 6 months I've had to deal with this stress. And I'm not exactly the kind of guy who can come up with 4 figures worth of money at the snap of my fingers. Although luckily, I guess I am that kind of guy because otherwise I'd be in jail. But that's $5,000 I owe friends of mine. I'm just lucky to have friends that can come up with 4 figures in the snap of a finger. That's $5,000 worth of big favor, worth of huge chip that I cashed in. That could have been used to upgrade 420 radio, could have been used to get us better cameras, whatever. $6,200 for nothing. So that's kind of on my mind. Got me a little distracted. Now, the other thing that's got me distracted is health. You probably know I've been working out and trying to eat right, and I've lost about 35 pounds and feeling good and everything, but I'm a middle-aged guy. And I'm not going to get into way detail on this. You don't need too much information, but I've got a symptom that's very scary and concerning. And it's the kind of symptom that's either nothing and will eventually go away, or it's a minor infection that you can take some antibiotics for or something, or it's cancer. That's the choices I got. Don't worry about it. It'll go away. Oh, it might be something we can give you a pill for it, or it's cancer. So that's been on my mind. Ironically, I'm thinking of all the cannabis cures cancer people at this time. So we're hoping for the best here. This is one of those kind of things where I can't know right now. I've got to take some time. We have to wait and see some doctors and do some tests and stuff. So I got the stress of being a criminal in Utah, possibly being a cancer patient in Oregon, and I got to produce election coverage. So I'm sorry, I've been a little distracted lately, and my mind hasn't been where it should be on business and everything. And again, I'm not doing this for the pity party of it. Thank you for your well wishes and everything, but it's because if I don't talk about this, I explode and I react badly and lose my cool and stuff. So I had to tell somebody, and I figured since you guys listen to me every day, almost every day, some of you, that maybe I'd just tell you. So, thanks for being here and listening and giving me something to do every day. I appreciate it.
Sir, do you think there will or should come a time for us to discuss the possibility of legalization, regulation, and control of all drugs, thereby doing away with the violent criminal market as well as a major source of funding for international terrorism? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is an entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Name the time and place, Mr. President. Radical Russ has been prepping for this debate full-time since 2005. The Russ Belville Show.
.420 Radio, turning red states and blue states green. At Royal Queen Seeds, we've got premium feminized cannabis seeds, including auto-flowering varieties for the medical cannabis user. We've got bulk shipments available and new CBD oil. Plus, we accept payment in Visa, MasterCard, and Bitcoin, as well as other methods. Check out our website at royalqueenseeds.com for more information. We are located in the Netherlands, and we have online grow experts ready to help you now at Royal Queen. District Attorney Josh Markey from the No on Measure 91 campaign can't decide if 1980 is relevant.
So feel free to respond. You used to be able to smoke on planes too, but times have changed, and it's frankly also been 25 years since Inca's been a prosecutor and never in Oregon. This is not Illinois in 1989. This is not Louisiana in 1960.
Josh Markey tells us that times have changed. Ms. Frickland's decades of experience in law enforcement are not relevant to Josh Markey. That was the 1980s. This is Oregon debating marijuana legalization in 2014. Let Josh Markey use this anecdote from 1980 to explain.
I just want to read you an essay he wrote called Fugitives and Refugees. Some of you may have read it. My first week living in Portland in 1980, I called my grandmother for her birthday. This is from a payphone on the Fred Meyer supermarket on Barber Boulevard, just downhill from my 2-bedroom apartment and Stoner roommates. My grandmother and I talk until I have no quarters left and the operator cuts the line. This is mid-sentence and I have no money to call and tell her what happened. Instead, I go home and fire up the bong. The big party bowl smokes like a bonfire of dope, and my roommates are in the kitchen cutting up a small block of hash. There's a knock on the door. It's the police. My grandmother is panicked. Portland's the big city, and she thinks I was mugged on the payphone. She calls the police and begs them to make sure I'm okay. It's impossible the cops don't smell our dope, but all they do is tell me to call home. After a scare like that, the party's over. That's basically the way law enforcement has treated marijuana in Oregon for the last 30 years. We have a minute left. Hold on, folks.
In the past year, Oregon law enforcement raided the homes and businesses of the owners of 3 medical marijuana dispensaries in Ontario, Tigard, and Medford. These establishments were providing marijuana to legally registered patients, so police lied to get medical marijuana cards to entrap them into marijuana sales felonies. These people, who were all medical marijuana patients themselves, one a new mother, are now all convicted felons because they followed the medical marijuana law. Times have changed, Josh Markey. It's 2014, and nobody believes your reefer madness anymore. The sky has not fallen in Washington and Colorado. Vote yes on Measure 91. This advertisement produced by the Russ Bevel Show and is not sponsored or endorsed by the Yes on Measure 91 campaign.
The pistachio. Green, natural, and available without prescription in all 50 states. He's fine.
Make noise more banging if they try to sweat you. Fuck 'em. It's freedom and choice and we up in it. Come and get another mouthful, no limit. I'm a concrete solid rocker using the force. I got a middle finger degree with no remorse. Straight mobbing on a bad beat, wrapping them up. And I tell you right now, I ain't giving a fuck. You wanna step to the plate and go get it. Flex with the fingers and you gotta come with it. Bring a lot of firepower, ready for the killing. Even for the chest, 40 yards.
Oh yeah, that's music from the Dirt Ball, right out of Crook County. I still have a record request out at Crook County. We'll get that data to you probably after the election. This is the Dirt Ball. You can check him out. He's a member of the Cottonmouth Kings now, but he's an Oregon boy right out of Bend, Oregon. I call him the Ted Nugent of rap because he's into hunting. He's into like bow hunting and shit. He's really into it, man. He's a total Oregon boy. Love the Dirt Ball. He's also a drummer, and I think that really contributes to his flow. The way he raps and rhymes is just awesome. I've got all his albums. Love every tune.
So wanna see a motherfucker be standing around. I wanna see the feet moving, pop locking it down. I wanna see the feet moving, pop locking it down. I wanna feel the earthquake when I come to town.
Yeah, that's the Dirt Ball. Great workout music. I recommend it highly. Of course, I do most everything highly, so All right, enough of the maudlin self-pity party here. Welcome back to Toker Talk Radio. Those of you who missed the last segment, boo-hoo for me, and welcome back. I wanted to go back to this New York Times story. This is the New York Times story. I'll post this in the chat room if you folks want to check it out yourself. But I love this for the quote at the end, because it's talking. They spoke to Kevin Sabet, and this was about the whole, where New York Times said there's this new tough tactic by forcing the drug prevention people to obey the laws regarding their educational grants. That's our tough new tactic. But at the end, they quote Kevin Sabet. I love this quote. I'll just read these two paragraphs. Professor Sabet of the Department of Psychiatry in the College of Medicine at the University of Florida. Time. One moment. When we say Professor Sabet of the College of Psychiatry at the Department of Medicine, Department of Psychiatry in the College of Medicine at the University of Florida, it should be reiterated that Kevin Sabet is not a psychiatrist and he holds no medical degree. That's right. You get to be a professor at the College of Medicine in the Department of Psychiatry without a degree in either psychiatry or medicine. And for that matter, no science degree whatsoever. No science. Not psychopharmacology, not pharmacology, not nothing. No scientific degree. Kevin Sabet is a public policy PhD. Anyway, founded his anti-legalization group with Patrick J. Kennedy, a former Democratic congressman from Rhode Island. He said in an interview that on the surface, the fight against legalization probably looks unwinnable here in Oregon. Quote, "It looks bad. I want to be on the other team," end quote, he said, laughing. Oh, Kevin. Kevin's wanted to be on the other team since that day in junior high when the cool kids called him nerd and stuffed him in the locker. Kevin Sabet, in his undergrad work at Berkeley, UC Berkeley, folks, at UC Berkeley in his undergrad years, formed a group called Students for a Drug-Free Berkeley. That is like level 10 trolling right there. That is as troll can be. That's troll before internet trolling even existed. This is pre-internet, folks. Students for a Drug-Free Berkeley. Wow. That's amazing. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that quote because I like hearing Kevin Sabet say, "It looks bad. I want to be on the other team," because it is bad. A lot of people in Oregon here are frightened. On our side, are frightened about the latest poll on Measure 91, showing 44% support, 46% against. And I counsel them to not be frightened, because this poll by Elway Research is the same people who put Initiative 502 in Washington at 48% when it passed with 55. These Elway pollsters included a sample that had 71% of the sample above the age of 50. That is nowhere close to what the vote turnout is going to be. Yes, older people do turn out more in the midterm election, but it's more like 65, 64% are 50 and older, not 71. The last midterm election in 2010 nationwide, the turnout was 67%. 2/3 of the voters were age 45 and older. That means 1/3 of the voters were under age 45. So if the last election midterm, 1/3 of the voters were under the age of 45, and this poll is telling us that the voters under 50 will only be 29% of the voters, I call shenanigans. It's not going to be that. We're going to do okay. I don't think we're going to do as well as Washington and Colorado did in 2012. Now, I've heard from political experts that you can expect the marijuana legalization turnout rate to be 3% lower in a midterm election than what you would get in a presidential year. So if we take the 55% that Colorado and Washington got, they both got about 55%, and we knock 3% off that, I think Oregon comes in at about 52. I think we win 52-48. Now, if this poll scares people, then do something about it. Make sure younger people vote. If you got kids, make sure they've voted. If they're adult children, make sure they're voting. Got kids in college in Oregon, make sure that they've voted. Just because they go to college in Oregon, if they're going to University of Oregon and they're from Pennsylvania or some shit, they can still vote in Oregon. They can register to vote in Oregon. We need every one of those votes. Every young person's vote counts double now. We've got to have that. This is all about get out the vote. Elway called it a statistical dead heat. I think that's pretty fair to say. So it's going to depend on who turns out to vote. Now, it's also interesting that we've got a GMO labeling race here, too. And interesting also that it's close. You'd think in a state like Oregon, hippy-dippy granola Oregon would be tripping all over themselves to vote in favor of labeling GMO foods. But Monsanto and PepsiCo and a whole bunch of big ag companies and big food companies poured a whole bunch of money into Oregon. It's made the Measure 92 campaign the most expensive ballot measure in Oregon history. Millions on both sides, both for labeling and against labeling, pouring money into this. I think that's an issue that gets young people to vote. And having that combined with a marijuana legalization issue really gets young people to vote. Now, the Measure 91 signs have been few and far between. I haven't seen a lot of lawn signs for Measure 91. And I understand. A lot of people don't want to say, hey, I support legalizing pot. Hey, my house might have pot in it. Come rob it. Right? I understand. Right? I understand where people are coming from. But the 92 signs, at least out here in Portland, and again, Portland, People's Republic of Portland, I'm seeing lots of yes on 92 signs. I don't know how things are eastern or southern parts of the state. But right now, the stats and the polls were showing that the 92 campaign is a dead heat. Could Oregon actually have an election where it votes down legalization and GMO labeling at the same time? I don't think so. I think these both pass. Now, on the GMO thing, I've been going rounds with this on Twitter with various folks, right? And I'll tell you, I voted for it. I'm just generally for labeling anything, right? Like more data? Great, let's have it. Now, the people who've argued against this to me have said, but Russ, it won't label all the GMO things, and some things that are GMO won't get labeled, and it'll be confusing and misleading, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, to some extent, but we shouldn't label some things because not all things are getting labeled? Doesn't seem like much of an argument to me. Seems like, well, at least if we can get some of it labeled, let's get that labeled and we'll figure the rest out. That seems to me the logical choice. But, people disagree on this. I'm just surprised that it's even close in Oregon. I'm just surprised that it's this close. I really am. And also, I got to point out that when it comes to the GMO labeling, it's not because I'm anti-GMO. Hell, have you seen my diet? Have you seen what I eat? Shit, I eat enough GMOs in my Subway lunch alone to make up for most people's diet, right? Processed foods, chips, all that crap. I love it. I'm not anti-GMO. But I'm pro-labeling. I like to know what's in stuff. I think that's a good idea. Now, the other side points out, all sorts of things about GMOs being safe and all that. And I'm generally like, I don't like to buy into theories that involve me imagining the opponents as a cartoon villain twirling his mustache. I know, we'll make Frankencorn and enslave the populations. Yeah, maybe not. But I do want to know that it's in there, right? I actually think that there's probably a lot of good science behind GMO and that most of the hysteria over it's overblown. But regardless, it should be labeled. Anyway, I digress. My main point was that GMO is on the ballot, marijuana is on the ballot, and if those two issues can't get young people to vote, I don't know what it'll take. That's all the time we got for today. Stay tuned for Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink, the Blaxploitation Theater episode. You'll get to hear all these great theme songs from the 1970s Blaxploitation genre. Hope you enjoy that. We'll be back tomorrow for our Halloween edition. I don't even know what I'm going to do for I'm so stressed out I haven't even thought about Halloween. I guess it's last second costume time again. For everyone here at 420 Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant